Well, the White House is opening up. They can't seem to settle on a message about the president's plan to federalize national elections.
Now, some lawmakers are saying it's just a bad idea, while others are insisting that it's about protecting American democracy. Lucas Tomlinson has more from Washington.
They can administer the election, but they have to do it honestly.
President Trump speaking bluntly in the Oval Office about his suggestion that elections be taken over by Republicans in at least 15 Democratic-run areas and then nationalized. The president first made those comments on a podcast Monday night. Then on Tuesday, his press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, tried to walk back his remarks, explaining that the president was referring to the SAVE Act, which would mandate voter ID in nationwide elections.
The president believes in the United States Constitution. However, he believes there has obviously been a lot of fraud and irregularities.
But just hours later, the president doubled down on his election takeover talk, claiming he doesn't understand why the feds don't already control the polls.
If a state can't run an election, I think the people behind me should do something about it. Because, if you think about it, a state is an agent for the federal government in elections.
Those remarks immediately condemned by Democrats on Capitol Hill, who pointed out the Constitution mandates the states run elections, not the federal government.
It is inappropriate for the president to advocate for actions that are wholly at odds with the Constitution and 2.5 centuries of state and local elections.
But across the aisle, Republicans say this shouldn't be a political issue.
These are very important things to ensure that our elections are free and fair and safe.
The president appointed National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard to oversee election security as part of a, quote, whole-of-government effort. In Washington, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox Chicago.